Hey everyone, welcome back to Your Finest Hour. We're back again for another awesome week, and you're going to listen to me talk about something completely different and try new things because that's what I do. So I'm your host, Norman Driggers, and this week I spent some time reflecting on a conversation I recently had with a friend, call sign Pistol, and in his episode we talked just a little bit about work-life balance, and after polling the audience on Instagram, it made a lot of sense for me to use this podcast as a platform to talk about issues in the high performance, quote unquote, battle space. So, what is a high performer? High performer, and I just Googled this term. High performer is defined as employees who consistently exceed expectations, demonstrating exceptional skills and making significant contributions to their teams and organizations. They're known for their high productivity, efficiency, and dedication to achieving excellence. If you're listening to this podcast, it is highly likely that you are a higher performer. So with that said, I wrote an article back in February talking about why this individual target audience struggles to find balance in their life. And today I would like to share that article with you. You like this template? Some of the frameworks that I'm going to talk about, or the topic as a whole, please leave a comment, send me a text even. What I'm looking for is some kind of confirmation that this topic specifically resonates with you, because I spend a lot of time researching and writing articles. That's what I enjoy doing. As you can tell, I started doing this podcast. I want to ensure that the topics that I feel very passionately about, especially in the mental health space, is something that you actually want to listen to. Mental health is very important. There's a lot of columns and pillars to those topics, and I just want to ensure that is the right topics that you want to listen to. So, without further ado, enjoy the episode. I personally used to think being the best meant outworking everyone around me until people started noticing my efforts. But I learned it actually means knowing exactly what best means and looks like for you, and having the courage to stop when you get there. For the specific audience today, as we talked about before, which is high performers, understand if you have been grinding harder and harder, but feeling less and less fulfilled in the things that you're doing, this episode is for you. Oftentimes, the problem isn't that you're not working hard enough. It's that you're not working towards something that is fulfilling you deeply. A few years ago, I was teaching at the Air Force Weapons School. And if you know, you know. But if you don't know, think Top Gun, but for the Air Force. I love making that reference. The job was awesome, but it was high stakes, high tempo, and all the time. And because of who I am, I was absolutely obsessed with being the best instructor there was in the weapons school. The only issue with that is I was one of the first batch of instructors for my specific career field to teach at the weapons school. There is no template for what best looks like if you are the first. All I knew at the time is that I had this brilliant counterpart who seemed to have an answer for everything. And I thought if I just put in more time and effort, eventually I'd get there too. And just for a point of reference, his call sign is Dalai, after the Dalai Lama. So I basically set an arbitrary goal that might not even be possible. So what did I do? I worked really hard for about a year. Typically you work 12 to 16-hour days at that school. And the mission is for the students, getting students across the finish line and graduating them. So if we're talking time and effort, I definitely did what I thought I was supposed to do. But here's the thing with high performance. Once you start performing really well, that becomes your baseline. Then it becomes your standard. And when your standard is already really high, it's incredibly hard to gauge when to push the throttle forward and when to pull it back. So I just kept grinding. 12 hours turned to 16 hours as a standard. The only way to improve from that is your weekends. And then I began to start micromanaging everything. From my point of view, everything that had my name on it, or everything that allowed my credibility to come into question, had to be perfect. And all for what? Just because I wanted to be the best instructor ever. There's something definitely to be said about goals that aren't measurable, but that's a conversation for another time. Just know that there's no finish line when your goal is that vague. So what happens? I start grinding for another year. At this point, we're 2 years into a 16-hour day, 6 to sometimes 7 days a week for multiple weeks at a time. All for what? Because I wanted to be the best? Because I wanted to make rank? I wanted to be the best tech sergeant the weapons school has ever seen. Well, this all changed when a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in about 2.5 years showed up to the weapons school to come fly with us. At that time, I was getting ready for my board for Master Sergeant E7, a promotion that I swore up and down I really wanted. Well, the funny part about this is there's a running joke in the military that once people make Master Sergeant, you start to let their physical health slide a little bit because the mission comes first, right? So if you want to make Master Sergeant, you act like a Master Sergeant. Well, my friend that came to fly with us, as I walked into the briefing room, he was super excited to see me. It was awesome, reconnecting with him. Well, in that moment, he looked me in the eye, smiled, and said, "Oh man, you're really prepping to make Master Sergeant, huh? You've even already put on the Master Sergeant weight." We both laughed. It was hilarious. But when I got home that night, I looked in the mirror and thought, damn, I'm really getting thick, huh? That's when it hit me. And it's really difficult when it's a slow weight gain over 2 years. So I gained 15 pounds. When it's a slow gain of weight over 2 years, you can kind of notice, but if you're lifting weights, you're not really prioritizing your health physically, you may not see the weight gain, but you for sure feel it. I'm only 5'9". I'm a pretty muscular dude. And so you can sit there and argue some of that weight gain was muscle to an extent. Most of it wasn't. And on top of that, I was exhausted all of the time. I felt disconnected from the people I actually cared a lot about, all because I thought I was optimizing my entire life for a goal that didn't even exist. To be the best, right? So why did I just tell you that story? Well, I want to talk to you about something that I realized. High performers and high performance typically comes from a state of unrecognized or unfulfilled validation needs. And that validation can come from two places, external or internal. External validation is easier for high performers to navigate because it's measurable. Awards, promotion, money, recognition, people telling you that you did a good job is a perfect example of external validation. It scratches the itch. You know when you've got them. But internal validation, that all comes from you. Other words for this that you may have heard is extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. It's not a word-for-word translation, but it's a similar concept that you can apply. For internal validation, it is incredibly difficult for high performers to tell themselves when they should push the throttle forward or when to pull it back when they're seeking that validation. Because of the baseline concept that I mentioned earlier, when you're already performing at a high level, how do you know when enough is enough? How do you know when you've earned the right to relax? When do you deserve to go home? I lived through these 2 years of pain, and with my realizations, I have this brutal truth to share with you. If you don't define what enough looks like, you'll never find it. You'll keep grinding, waiting for some external signal that never comes, or some internal feeling of completion that's impossible to achieve when your goals are unmeasurable. This is why work-life balance feels impossible for high performers. It has nothing to do with time management or productivity hacks. It's about validation management. So here's what I did. I stopped trying to be the best instructor ever and started asking myself different questions. First question, what specific impact do I want to have on my students? Next, what measurable outcomes would tell me I'm succeeding? And lastly, what does good enough look like so I know when to stop? I was forced to set objective measures for what success meant for both me and my students. And here's the crazy part. Once I had clear targets, once I had clear goals, I was able to hit them all efficiently. I was able to say no to things that didn't serve my purpose. And more importantly, I could leave work at work because I knew I had accomplished what I set out to accomplish. From there, I immediately started to reprioritize my health. Being a juicy boy is pretty dope when you're putting 315 up on the bench press. But once you get out to that beach, not that fun. I learned this lesson so you don't have to. So here's what I want you to do this week. It's super simple, but it's going to give you a mass amount of clarity. I want you to be able to ask yourself, am I motivated by external validation or internal validation? And here's some examples. External validation, like we talked about earlier, ask yourself, are you driven by awards, recognition, money, status, promotion, things other people can see and measure? Or are you seeking internal validation? Are you searching for some feeling that when you get home at the end of the day, you can say you gave the world your all? That when you pull out your phone, when you're laying on the couch, you don't feel shameful for relaxing. Or my personal favorite, on Saturdays, if you do absolutely nothing all Saturday, and I'm talking like less than 5,000 steps, I do nothing on my Saturdays. Is that going to make you feel some kind of way personally? That you're not living the life that you think you're meant to live? There's no right or wrong answer here. but you need to know which one you're chasing because the strategies for each of these and how to fix them are completely different. With everything we just talked about, I want you to understand that this is just the beginning. There's a ton of nuance to this topic, and I'm going to continue exploring it over the next few episodes, but it all starts with this one exercise. So over this next week, I want you to be able to figure out what kind of validation you're seeking and drop a message. It would be awesome to know which one you identify with. Talk to your friends about this concept. It's nothing new, but sometimes we have to be reminded of these things. Because again, if you're a high performer, it's likely you're not thinking about this at all. You're just trying to shoot for the next target, shoot for the next goal, which I totally understand. But if you're feeling pretty burnt out, you might want to address these things that I just talked to you about. I'm going to leave the episode with this promise. I promise you by the end of this series, you will have immense clarity on your struggles with work-life balance. I promise you that. But it all starts here and with this question. Oftentimes we think that we need more time. We need some productivity hack, or we need our friends to understand that the grind is real. I don't think you need any of that. I genuinely believe that we should all be working under the same levels of conviction about what we want out of our lives, married with our conviction to just hang out. Just sit and lay on your couch, dude. It's okay. It's nice. Okay. I could talk about this for a super long time. In the respect for your time, I'm going to end the episode here. Let me know what you think, like I was talking about earlier, and I hope you enjoy your week. I'll see you next time.